Good morning, everybody. It's Randy. I just wanted to talk a little bit about today's societal pressure, especially on younger people who are being, molded by societal expectations and the pressure not to judge, not to discern, not to make any kinds of judgments. So this is quite a flip-flop from, some years ago when we were teaching children to make good decisions, because making good decisions takes good judgment. And, there was a difference between poor judgment and good judgment. And in order to make good decisions, there has to be a lot of weighing of pros and cons. There has to be a lot of discernment. Perhaps your intuition is involved, hopefully. But nowadays, anytime someone's religious or spiritual influences come into play in terms of how they make decisions and why, you're quickly accused of being judgmental, as if judgmental is a bad thing. So, like when I'm accused of being judgmental once in a while by commenters, I assume that the commenters are very young. And when I'm accused of being judgmental, it's not that they're saying they're not accusing me of having poor judgment. They're just accusing me of the way my beliefs and my decisions are wrong, basically. And it's interesting that the new morality these days is to not make any kinds of judgments at all. And therefore, when you don't make any judgments, you really can't protect yourself. If anything goes and everything's fine and there is no bad, everything is good, except those same people that will accuse you of being judgmental. They're also, very judgmental, because what are they doing when they accuse me of being judgmental? They're judging me, right? So it's pretty funny how people who claim to not have any judgment of anyone will accuse other people the most of being judgmental. And when I say accuse, to me, it's a compliment. It is not a put down to be told that I am judgmental, because that tells me, wow, my boundaries are working, my beliefs are expressed and understandable, and people seem to be getting my message across. I'm not trying to tell other people what they should believe, but I don't feel ashamed of my beliefs and my values. So I'm not ashamed of how I feel and what I believe about things. So why would I try to hide that? And when I'm open to discussing my beliefs, I have a hell of a lot of people that feel the same way as I do too. And that's one of the reasons why I make videos, because I'm kind of sensitive to being called names, I think, as most of us are, with the intention of it being a put down. And it's almost like when I was younger, me and my friend, we were in high school, and a couple people like called us bitches or something like that. Probably other girls. And then we would kind of like say, thank you. You know, like that's a compliment, because it's, to us, what it meant is you guys like have confidence, or you guys are not afraid to, you know, say certain things that you feel. Maybe you're honest. Being a bitch could mean you're honest. So it's like we all have different meanings for the words, and judgmental to me is not a put down. Being a bitch is not a put down. It depends on the context. I don't think I've ever been called a bitch by like somebody that I was actually like dating or married to. Basically, if you're in a bad mood and you snap at somebody, you will be called a bitch. You know, which it happens, doesn't it? Doesn't it that happen to everybody at some point? So anyway, this idea of being non-judgmental is like driving me so crazy, because it is the opposite of what I have learned, and which is to use good judgment in all things. And I'm not saying I have like perfect judgment, but the reason people use good judgment is to protect yourself, and it's to stay on the right course, because, you know, you can be doing all the quote right things, and, you know, one error can screw up years and years of your future. You know what I mean? So I am like careful to not do that. And as I get older, I have more and more to lose if I'm to make a step out and make a mistake that could actually affect me for the rest of my life. I'm really not into wanting to do that. So I do need to, you know, I do feel the need to express some of my views, especially to younger people, because there's less and less of that being done. And then, you know, you get called all kinds of names when you do express some of your beliefs. If your beliefs are not that everybody's great and everybody's wonderful, and don't say anything about anybody else's behavior. If you're not like that, then you're going to be called a whole bunch of names, and it's just interesting to me the pressure on us to not use our better judgment. And if we do use it, for God's sake, don't explain why you have made such a decision, because it might come off to somebody as being judgmental. The other thing is being selective. Since when was being selective about who you would like to date and spend time with, have sex with, and possibly live with or marry? Since when was being selective about that such a bad idea, right? Because I've always been selective in my own mind. I mean, I've always been selective. Why would at this age I stop being selective and be just accept anything into my life? Even if it, you know, doesn't feel good, even if it's not, if it's not fun, if it's not enjoyable, if it's uncomfortable, just accept it all into your life is the message. And then wait and see how it goes. You might be surprised. I'm not going to do that. I'm not willing to do that. You know, oh, you're going to be alone for the rest of your life. You're too selective. Okay, I am willing to accept that as a consequence. Obviously, because the other option is worse. Being non-selective and wasting more time being in uncomfortable situations, setting myself up for future losses and failures is not something I'm willing to do. So yes, of course, I'm going to be selective, and it is not a bad thing. Do I need to accept the consequence for being selective? That I may never, meet somebody that I am willing to spend time with? Sure, I accept that consequence. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not desperate to the point that I would accept anything that comes along, or even, something that's 50% good, even 75% right. I'm being selective to the point where, there needs to be a lot, stop it, kitty. There needs to be a lot of things right in order for me to move forward, because I don't have a ton of time left here on this earth. I'm not really willing to waste any time on somebody who I don't feel is, has not just potential anymore, but has actually achieved, a lot of my expectations before I've even met him at this age. When you're young, you have a lot of prospect. You are able to look at potential. When you get older, I don't look at potential anymore. I mean, what in the hell is a 50-year-old guy gonna become if he hasn't become it by now? I mean, yes, hopefully he'll get wiser, but there's no such thing as potential anymore at my age. It's like, you've reached it or you haven't. And I don't have time to, mess around with trying to change you or help you meet your potential or fantasizing about what might be. I'm looking at what is, and is it acceptable? Did you make good decisions? And it's funny because on my dating profile, on one of them at one point, I did have, I wanted a guy who's made a lot of good decisions in his life. And the responses I get is like that I'm crazy, like that almost, that there's no such guy. Well, there are some guys that have made some a lot of good decisions in their life. I'm not saying you've never made a bad decision. I'm saying somebody who has kind of been more like me and made some good judgments and has some values and has made their decisions based on good judgment, which means being consistent with their own values and beliefs. And then someone who has some of the same values and beliefs that I do. So thank you. That is your thought for today, and have a great day.